Your attention, masters, mistresses. All systems functional for the Everything Geek podcast.
Hey, this is Rich McDonald, and I play Commander David Mason on Call of Duty Black Ops 2. And you're listening to Everything Geek podcast.
Hey, it's James Arnold Taylor, the voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi and
Master Plo Koon
in Star Wars The Clone Wars, and you're listening to Everything Geek, the podcast.
Hey, it's Leif Gamfert. I played Uncle Ben's killer in The Amazing Spider-Man, and you're listening to the Everything Geek podcast.
Hello, I'm Simon Fisherbecker. You probably know me better as Dorian Moldovar from Doctor Who, or the Fat Friar from Harry Potter. And this is Everything Geek Podcast.
Face it, Tiger. You just hit the jackpot with the Everything Geek Podcast.
You're listening to the Everything Geek Podcast, bringing you interviews from your favorite films and TV shows every week, and all of the latest news. Here's your host, Ruari Williamson.
Hello everyone, you're listening to the Everything Geek Podcast. I'm your host Ruari, and joining me today is a very special guest. We have actor Steve Coulter, who is best known for playing Reg Monroe in The Walking Dead, Game Center Tech 1 in The Hunger Games, the Priest in Fast and Furious 7, USC Professor in Taken 3, Father Gordon in The Conjuring, and Carl in Insidious Chapter 2. Reprising role as Insidious Chapter 3, which opens June 5th, 2015. So how are you today, Steve? I'm very well, thank you. It's a pleasure to have you with us on the podcast today, Steve. Great, thank you very much. So getting right into the questions I have for you, Steve. My first question is, how did you decide you wanted to become an actor?
I had always, my favorite thing to do when I was little, I like sports and stuff, but I love playing pretend. Me and my best friends, we were always just, it was in the mid-'60s, so when you played war, it was still the Americans versus the Germans. I don't know what they play now. And we had, woods near my house. We have, all these battles and things. And I always just pretended. I even remember I was very shy, so I would pretend I was like my parents' bodyguard when I was like 11 years old. So to make a long story short, I just always pretended things. And I did some plays in, school. And towards the end of high school, I did some difficult plays, and I was on the soccer team. And I was offered a lead role in a play that was just a really, really, really good role. And I thought, this is what I want to do. So I had to leave the soccer team, which made me sad. And decided to go to acting school and train formally. And it was pretty much from about the age of 16, I knew that this is what I wanted to do. And that was many years ago.
It's very interesting. Thank you for that. So my second question is, how were you initially cast as Reg Monroe in The Walking Dead?
Originally, and as some of your listeners may know, for very popular shows like Walking Dead and Breaking Bad and such, and for some movies, they don't want the stories to get leaked out to the public, especially with Twitter and Facebook and social media. And so through my agent, I was sent a couple scenes to read, one main scene, and it was disguised. Two things: I didn't know it was for a regular role, and I also I didn't know what the role really was. It took place in a New York penthouse at like a book signing party, and in the scene, my wife was a famous author, and I was talking to someone who was equally famous for their achievements, and I was complimenting them, saying, I've heard all great things about you, I've seen all your TED Talks. And once I got the part, I realized it was a disguised version of, I guess it's episode 513, where the survivors on the show are at that dinner party, a sort of cocktail party, which is they've dressed up and it's very odd. And so the character that I was talking to in the disguise scene was Rick. But I read for the part. I thought it was just like a one-day, character. And then they said, well, you're in the running for it. They've narrowed it down. They just have to see if you'll match up with the woman playing your wife. And then on my birthday last October, around 11 o'clock in the morning, my agent called and said, do you have the part? And you're in a bunch of episodes. So yeah, I was very, very, it's a really good birthday present. Very happy.
It's very interesting, and even better, of course, that you got the part on your birthday. I mean, that's a nice birthday present right there. Like,
very nice.
you know, hearing that you're cast in The Walking Dead. I mean, there's not really a lot better birthday presents, is there?
I've watched the show from the very first episode, so I've been a huge fan, and to get to do. And I've done a lot of movies and TV shows, but to be on something that you've been following from the very beginning, that made me very, very happy. And so yeah, I was a pretty happy guy.
Yeah. Well, I take it back slightly. I said it was one of the best things. For you, it was probably the best thing you could have heard on your birthday. Yeah, certainly among the best, at least. That really is great. Congratulations for that. I mean, you know, not just getting the role, but on such a great day to get it as well. So, yeah. So, moving on to my third question for you, Steve. Can you talk about the filming process of Reg Monroe's death scene in The Walking Dead Season 5 finale?
Yeah, it was one of the very last days. Actually, it was the last really big day of shooting for the whole season. And we shot that scene where they're having the meeting with all the residents, you know, sort of testifying about Rick. We shot that over 2 nights, and this was the second night. Very, very, very cold. Now, we shoot in Atlanta, Georgia, and very, extremely cold in the middle of the night. We had some fires going. And so they prepped it. We had to shoot it in sort of 3 different versions. What we shot first is after Reg has had his throat slashed and he falls back into Deanna's arms. And for that, they created a latex prosthetic that they glued onto my neck, which looked like my throat had been ripped open. And then they threaded a little plastic tube up my leg, through my shirt, and up through the hole in my throat so that they could pump the blood. And they tried to warm the blood. They have all this. Can you imagine on The Walking Dead, they have a lot of blood in jars and buckets. And so there was a hand pump for someone to, so they could do it like, your carotid arteries have been severed, so it would pump out like at the rate of your heart. And it was very cold. They tried to heat the blood, but it was still very cold. And we did that about 2 or 3 times. And then we had to do, we did the slash without any kind of special effect. And then they fitted me for the 3rd time for when Pete initially slashes my throat. They put a clear tube around my neck like a collar that had a little spout at the front. And for this, they had another tube go up through my pant leg. But off camera, there was a motorized pump because they needed the blood to shoot. And just hand pumping it wouldn't be strong enough. So when he slashes me, the pump is on and it literally sprays a jet of blood pretty much everywhere. We did that only twice, I think. But in between, of course, we're doing that over a period of like 3-4 hours. So during breaks, I'm sitting with my friends in at Alexandria, that neighborhood, those are all real houses. And so the waiting area, they would just put us inside a living room in one of these empty houses. And so I'd be sitting there talking. People were on their cell phones, and I'm drenched in blood. And of course, whenever you have effects like that, like last year, I did a film where I was shot by Mickey Rourke 4 times in the chest, and they have to have like 4 or 5, change of clothes, identical items of clothing. So I had about 3 of those sweaters, 3 of those shirts, and but they're very fast. They're very, very like they built the gash in my neck. They created that in 16 minutes. Whereas in other films or TV shows, it might take you an hour and a half, 2 hours. But they're so good at what they do. They just did it. I actually timed them 16 minutes.
That's really interesting. That really is. I mean, it's just such an interesting death as well, isn't it, Reg? Because, like, compared to a lot of deaths, obviously, in The Walking Dead, it's accidental, really. Like, mean, Pete Peter's bad and tense, but not necessarily the Reg. Reg just tries to stop him, and
and it happened so quickly too, because a lot of friends of mine and my sisters didn't know I was going to die, because you had to keep it a secret, and it comes out of nowhere. He shows up, and you hear some yelling, then all of a sudden. And that's what they wanted. They just, because in life, I haven't been around anyone who had their throat slashed, but when that kind of thing happens, that very tragic, sudden, awful things, they kind of come out of nowhere, and it makes it that much sadder. And I was disappointed.
I completely agree, and I understand your reasons for being upset.
It was fun to go out. If you're going to die, it's the most popular show on television, and that's you can't really pick a better way than the climactic scene of the finale episode of the season. So I can't complain, and they were so very nice. So.
Definitely. That's great to hear. Moving on to my. Considering how Rick Grimes made the speech about the Alexandria safe zone, needing to just moments before Reg was killed, do you think that had Reg not died, he would have been capable of fighting alongside Rick and the others?
That's a very good question. I love questions that I do not know the answer to right away. It's interesting because I do think Reg is a pacifist, but he's also very smart, and he was very practical. I do think he would be more into the planning of things, just being an architect and a builder. He would probably, he wasn't, I think he agrees more with Rick, or he did agree when he was alive, agreed more with Rick than with Deanna. I think Deanna was kind of naive. I don't think she is anymore after what happened. And I do think, I don't know if I would see him out there, outside the walls, but I do think he's such a good planner. He would probably be planning supplies and weapons and maybe tactics and things like that, and maybe how to weaponize more Alexandria to prepare them. But we'll never know, will we?
No, we won't, unfortunately. Yeah, but that's such a very interesting answer, and I completely agree. I definitely think he could be more like one of the behind-the-scenes people, maybe planning, talking over ideas with people, with some of the others. I have to admit, it would have been interesting, I'll say, to see, doing some fighting scenes.
Well, and as an actor, I never, it was funny, one of the fun things, right now I'm working on a movie that I get to ride a horse, and those are the kind of things as an actor. I've done Shakespeare and things, but when you get to do things like ride horses and shoot guns, and I never got to shoot any weapons on The Walking Dead, and I was jealous of my friends that got to. They'd be going out and loading up weapons, and I'm like, oh, okay, I get to just watch you go.
Yeah, I mean, the people of Alexandria like this whole crate that they make the newcomers put their guns into. They couldn't have let you use one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately they wouldn't.
Yeah.
So moving on to my fifth question. Aside from The Walking Dead, which have been your favorite projects to be involved with?
I've done several things I really enjoyed. I really did enjoy doing the Insidious movies, because we shot that all over Los Angeles and some very scary places. And also was a great group of people. And again, it's that fun, when you get to play a character, the character Carl is he's damaged. He's had a lot of pain and fears and stuff. And I got to do, it was a very small part. I did a film, I don't think hardly anyone's seen it, called Jane Mansfield's Car, that was directed by Billy Bob Thornton. I got to do a scene with Robert Duvall. And that was amazing, because I've grown up watching him, and he was such a gentleman and really, really classy actor. The same thing I would say about doing Flight with Denzel Washington. Another really kind, generous, funny, nice person. And I've also done a lot of theater. I did a one-man show called Underneath the Lintel about a Dutch librarian. It's an hour and a half of just that character on stage, and that's always fun. So yeah, but I think Walking Dead is probably some of the most fun I've had, just mainly because of the people. Really, really, and I've said this before in talking to a few other folks, that there's no egos on the set. None of those actors had a bad attitude. They were all, and not only not a bad attitude, but just really helpful and kind and funny, and very welcoming. And not only that, but the crew as well, and the producers. That's pretty rare, where he's just such a wide, and that says a lot about the show, I think.
Definitely, very good answer. Thank you for that. Moving on to my sixth question. You're reprising your role of Carl in Insidious Chapter 3, which opens June 5th, 2015. A role you had already played in Insidious Chapter 2, released in 2013. What can you tell us about returning to Insidious, and what can we expect of Carl in Insidious Chapter 3?
Well, I can't tell you too much because you have to go see the movie. But
yeah.
The thing about this movie, which I thought was very clever of them, they had the first two, and when I heard they were going to do a sequel, I thought, well, with that family, you can't really do much more of that family. I'm just so terrorized. And so they came up with the idea to make it kind of a prequel, an origin story. So you see how those two characters, Specs and Tucker, how they started. You see Lynn Shay's character, Elise, who plays the medium, how she really got going doing this. It takes place probably about 6 years before the first Insidious movie. And so one thing that's funny about my character that I can say is that he is not damaged. He's actually pretty strong, and he just shows up in this film. It's not a cameo, it's a small visit. He comes at a time in the movie where the lead character is in a lot of trouble, and he comes and sort of saves her in a way. So it's kind of fun to play someone before they've been damaged. And this movie I got to see it, and it's scary in a whole new way. So any fans of the films are going in for quite a treat, especially to see how it all started.
It's very interesting. Thank you so much for that. My final question for you, Steve, is do you have any upcoming acting roles or any other projects you would like to talk about other than Insidious?
Let's see. Right now, I'm shooting a film called The Birth of a Nation, and it stars Armie Hammer, who played the Lone Ranger and was in J. Edgar Hoover. It's about a slave revolt in the 1800s. Also, I'm actually about to head to Pittsburgh to shoot another episode of Banshee that I've been doing for a few years. And then after that, I'm going to be doing a Tom Cruise movie that they're shooting here in Atlanta called Nina. And then a Michael Keaton film called The Founder, which is about Ray Kroc, who started the whole McDonald's franchise. So it's going to be a busy couple months. And I'm also moving. The big news is I'm moving my daughter to New York City. She graduated from acting school a couple of weeks ago, and she's moving to New York. So on Monday, I'm driving her to New York City. And so she's going to start her career, and I'm very, very excited about that.
Very nice. Well, definitely be keeping an eye out for all of the projects you mentioned, and give my congratulations to your daughter as well.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. So that's all of my questions for you today, Steve. It's been a pleasure talking to you. What do I have coming up? Wait, you're actually asking me?
Yeah, in your life.
Well, for the podcast or outside of the podcast?
What do you do other than the podcast?
Well, I study journalism and media, so that kind of relates back to the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just can't escape from it. Even in my actual career, it still comes back to the podcast.
How long have you been doing this podcast?
Actually, our 2-year anniversary is on June 16th, just a couple of weeks.
I am just discovered. I'm sort of late. I discovered Twitter late. I think before The Walking Dead, I think I had sent 3 tweets maybe. And then, of course, The Walking Dead, you hear from people from all over the world, which is so much fun. And then, and now I'm just starting to listen to a lot of podcasts. So I'm going to have to add yours to the list. So.
Yeah, I know the feeling about Twitter, because I had my own personal Twitter like a few years ago, and I could never think of what to tweet on it. Then I set up the podcast one, and I keep tweeting. Yeah, it's weird how that works.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I get to talk to people from all over the world, and people are very nice. There was one guy, because after, Walking Dead, people were very complimentary, and, your little ego gets all stoked. But one guy wrote in, and all he said was, "I'm glad you died." And that made me laugh. I was like, oh, that'll keep things in perspective.
Yeah, kind of harsh. Yeah. But anyway, Steve, as I was saying, it's been a pleasure talking to you on the podcast today.
Same to you.
You're very welcome, and
good luck with your studies.
Thank you. I'm actually out for the year. I don't go back until September. I just got my results the other day.
Oh, how'd you do?
I got 1 distinction and merits and everything else. That means 1 I aced and the others I did very good in. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Congratulations to you then.
Thank you so much. So hopefully we can talk to you again on the podcast sometime.
Sure, I'd be more than happy to.
Great, so I'll talk to you again soon then. Bye, and thanks again for joining us.
All right, you're welcome. All right, bye-bye.
Yeah, goodbye.
Check out our website, website.everythinggeekpodcast.com/EGP. Check out our Facebook page, www.facebook.com/everythinggeekpodcast. Check out our YouTube channel, www.youtube.com/user/everythinggeekcast. Check us out on Twitter, twitter.com/everythinggeekp. Check us out on Instagram, instagram.com/official-everythinggeekpodcast. Check out our Mixcloud profile, www.mixcloud.com/everythinggeekpodcast. Email us at the following email, everythinggeekpodcast@gmail.com. Check out our companion podcast, Everything Geek Comiccast, www.facebook.com/everythinggeekcomiccast. Make sure to check out the host's YouTube channels. Mine is www.youtube.com/user/Sepidus Check out Steve Coulter on Twitter, twitter.com/Coulter28, and check out Channel 138 where we broadcast live from, www.channel138.com. So geeks out, everyone.
People, I love working in TV, and I love working with my fellow writers and actors and producers and directors, of course, and because it's just the whole team coming together.
It's not always about coloring inside the lines. So in my imagination, it was Beth was one of the first new people we had here in a long time, and this is a place where kind of routine and